It's a good Wednesday morning. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. Today we're going to look at our corporate confession of faith, the statement of what we believe. And this week our confession of faith comes to us from the Belgic Confession, and it's Article 13. And Article 13 deals with the providence of God and his governance over our lives and over all things. It's a statement about how we trust and rest and rely on God for all things. We say that we do, and this statement is one that articulates that for us. So the Belgic Confession, believers in Jesus, what do we believe? We believe that the same good God, after he created all things, did not forsake them or give them up to fortune or chance, but that he rules and governs them according to his holy will, so that nothing happens in this world without his appointment. Nevertheless, God neither is the author of, nor can be charged with, the sins which are committed. For his power and goodness are so great and incomprehensible, that he orders and executes his work in the most excellent and just manner, even then when devils and wicked men act unjustly. And as to what he does surpassing human understanding, we will not curiously inquire into farther than our capacity will admit of, but with the greatest humility and reverence, adore the righteous judgments of God, which are hid from us, contenting ourselves that we are pupils of Christ, to learn only those things which he has revealed to us in his word, without transgressing these limits. This doctrine affords us unspeakable consolation, since we are taught thereby that nothing can befall us by chance, but by the direction of our most gracious and heavenly Father, who watches over us with a paternal care, keeping all creatures so under his power that not a hair of our head, for they are all numbered, nor a sparrow can fall to the ground without the will of our Father, in whom we do entirely trust, being persuaded that he so restrains the devil and all our enemies, that without his will and permission they cannot hurt us. A great statement from the Belgic Confession, talking about our trust and our reliance on God, his providence for us, but also his governance over us. We see here the sovereignty of God at work in the lives of men and women, in the lives of God's children. And it's very clear here in the text that we're not leaning on chance, we're not leaning on circumstance, we're not leaning on things just happening out of the clear blue sky, but that rather all things pass through the hand of our sovereign God, who is also our loving and compassionate Father. And there's a text here in Matthew that this statement even refers to. Let's look at that, because we want to see the context of this understanding of God's providence and God's blessing, God's protection, God's governance. What's the context of that statement? Well, we look for it, and it's here in Matthew chapter 10, and we're going to start actually with verse 17, and look what the word says. So let's look at this text, and we're going to start with verse 17. Listen to Jesus' words. Be on your guard against men. They will hand you over to the local councils and flog you in the synagogues. On my account, you'll be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time, you will be given what to say, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. As men will hate you because of me, but he who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. I tell you, you will not finish going through the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes. A student is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for the student to be like his teacher and the servant like his master. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household? So do not be afraid of them. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs of your head are numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me before men, I will also acknowledge him before my Father in heaven. Now, usually when we read the verses concerning the hairs on your head being all numbered, or the sparrow not falling to the ground without God knowing it, we treat that in kind of a light manner, that it's just a nice saying, it's a cute saying. But when we read the context that passage appears in, God's thinking of the most difficult times, of the most challenging times, of the most trying of circumstances. And in the midst of those most trying of circumstances, God nevertheless in his word promises his providence for our life, his governance over our life, his sovereign hand over our lives. And even in the midst of our own sin, even in the most difficult times where we have transgressed God's law, even that God provides. How? By sending us Christ. The provision of God is this: Christ has come to deliver us from our sin. When we were rejecting God and rejecting his word and rejecting his commands, nevertheless, even while we were still sinners, Christ died for us.